Hi, welcome to Pamela Price Unfiltered. I'm Pamela Price, your host, and this is the space and the place for real talk. My special guest today is Stone Ramsey, an archivist, author, producer, and creator of the documentary Truth Be Told, The Dark Side of Gentrification. Check out the trailer.
And Oakland is a city of beautiful homes and views, a fine place for living, working, and raising children. But in Oakland's future, as in all larger cities, there is an internal threat, the cancer of housing decay. Almost in the shadow of the City Hall can be found the end result of this disease, the slum.
Oakland, stand up. Let's change the game with this one. I think I'm gonna need to stand and know after this one. You feel me? I ain't talking about everybody standing up in the west, man. You feel me? Get a little bit of that white, you know what I mean? Look.
When I first came here, you never saw anybody out on the street at night. Everybody took people in. But then the housing authority, the little HUD, changed the rules and said that you had to be on the lease in order to stay there. And so they were kicking everybody out who had any, and if you had any kind of prison record, you couldn't live in public housing at all.
The disposition of displacement is unfortunate just based off the fact of, here it is, what we talked about earlier off camera, was we're dealing with situations where people automatically assume just because someone's living on the street that they're a drug addict or they're indulging in alcoholism. And there's a great percentage of people that are living in those streets that aren't addicted to anything. Several individuals who live in these homeless encampments, which have been known as Tent City, who actually have jobs. They'll go to work every day. Unfortunately, they just can't afford a place to stay.
So where are you gonna go now?
Wherever the good Lord takes me.
I don't know. And that's the thing. That's why I wasn't gonna come out the tent, because where I won't go.
Man, these police come over here, man, trying to push all my peoples up out of here, tell them they got to go, and they ain't giving them nowhere to stay, man. And they just taking your shit and throwing it in the garbage can without your permission.
You almost made me cry up in there because you was saying good things, man. You almost made me cry because you was giving me love, but it was fake, man.
That's all you think that. That's all you think that.
Try to trip me, they don't want me on my feet. All this time looking at you, don't see anything. In these streets, be prepared for what it bring. For the love I've been searching, I wrote it in the ice road. I'm sliding down that ice road. Curve kissing down that ice road. He on me down this ice road.
That the city inspector was colluding with the city. So they was going to certain areas in the city of Oakland and they was labeling that they was blight areas. These is drug infested areas. These is crime areas.
A solution that could possibly be something that bridges those two things is our mayor inoculating rent control.
Libby Schaff, the mayor, got $25 million for emergency housing and help for the homeless. Well, what she did was she bought tough sheds that you would keep your dog or your bike in and put people in them. You did this as an answer to see whether or not the people would go for you housing them in doghouses.
I've even been told this. We can't house the homeless in those abandoned buildings is because they gonna burn them down. They're gonna fill them up with trash. They're gonna do, well, if they had a home, if they had their own house, they're gonna fill it up with trash. They're gonna fill it up with whatever they want. But ain't that better than them filling it up on the streets?
So right now, we're just picking up the debris, the burnt debris, and cleaning up the area. We're just doing a garbage run in between the tents to keep it halfway decent. Stop starting fires. Keep your area clean, that way the citizens won't complain, because that's how we get called.
The art of coming back into the communities, opening up businesses, teaching financial literacy, and educating others around us about the importance of getting all of these small little properties to have as much as we possibly can as black individuals.
I can always remember when it was black-owned stores too. So you got to go back to when we was owning. When you speak of gentrification, you think of ownership. So you had like Session in them that was over at Cypress Store that owned it, black-owned stores. There was quite a few black-owned stores before the Arabs got the stores. But truthfully, by the time the white folks came, the value, of course, changed. It was all about values. It was all about the money. Like I said, it's about letters and numbers. At the end, they come down here. It's a diverse type thing. It's a mixture. But at the same time, we should have ownership, bottom line.
How you doing? Just spoke respectfully, then speak back. My neighborhood, though.
Sprouting, healing in the hood and everywhere around the nation.
My guest today is Stone Ramsey, the COO of All Bay Music, the CEO of Ramsey Media Group, an author, poet, producer, filmmaker, and founder of the WISE program, the Written in Stone Entrepreneurship Program. In 2015, Stone became the founder of Ramsey Entertainment, a production company, which is a branch of Ramsey Media Group. He distributes, produces, and facilitates film projects for the small and big screen, as well as music for artists. In 2016, Stone co-produced season 2, episode 2 of Underworld Incorporated, a docuseries that aired on National Geographic. In 2017, Stone collaborated and assisted with the production of the critically acclaimed Netflix original Dope. He started filming for Truth Be Told, The Dark Side of Gentrification in Oakland in 2019. Interrupted by the pandemic, post-pandemic, he completed part 1 in 2023. He completed part 2 in 2024. Stone, welcome to Pamela Price Unfiltered.
I'm honored and humbled.
It is my honor to have you today and to have you, as I've seen your most recent film, Truth Be Told, The Dark Side of Gentrification in Oakland. And our conversation today is all about homelessness in Alameda County and the controversy surrounding it. So your film is extremely timely for my audience. Can you tell us what prompted you to make the film and what was your process for doing it?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me here. I appreciate you so much, and and everybody that's involved in this film, we appreciate you. That being said, my motivation for starting this was when I came home from prison in 2013. I just seen a city that was a former shell of itself, and I like, wow, what's going on here. And the guys that I grew up with, I would see them in these tents, and I'm like, man, what's going on? And so, that and a lot of things that transpired just really motivated me to find some type of solution to the pollution.
Thank you. Thank you. You're absolutely right. We've watched the transformation of Oakland via gentrification and leading to homelessness. And thank you for sharing with us that you're formerly incarcerated, that you came home, that you turned a new leaf in life, and that you are inspiring others. So tell my audience, what was the process to make part 1 and then part 2?
Well, part 1, we basically had to go in the trenches. And sometimes we would say, we got to get in the trenches with the Grinches. And when we mean the trenches with the Grinches, we know the people are not Grinches, but that underbelly itself is the Grinch, that stole people's homes. You know what I'm saying? So we had to go in there and see what was going on, and in order to show the world, man, hey, look, we need to fix this, and we need more than a Band-Aid. And so I got together with some producers and who were down enough to come down there, because I think we were humbly and respectfully, we were the first ones to go inside the tents, to go in there and look in there, to really go in there with the people. No one wanted to do that. And so that was the process of that's how we started. And my experience working with National Geographic for season 2, episode 2, and then my experience working on the Dope series, I just used that experience and I transferred that experience to this project right here.
Yes, your project and the film, I've seen it, part 1 and part 2. You really get into the trenches with the folks and you tell
Mhm.
the stories of
Mhm.
everyday people who are from Oakland or from Alameda County. We know from the point in time count from 2024, 80% of the people who are homeless in Oakland
Mhm.
actually are from Alameda County. So we know
Right.
it's our family, it's our friends, it's our neighbors that have become unhoused. So, can you share with my audience some of the hardest stories that you heard in the process?
Yeah. One of the in my first film, I I talk and I go into Russell City. Now, Russell City was a city that was inside of Hayward, which is now Hayward. And my family grew up in Russell City. And my grandmother used to tell me, she like, baby, in Russell City, we used to have this and we used to do that. And she used to tell me all the stories about Russell City. And she used to tell me all the stories about picking cotton. And she came out here from picking cotton and they moved to Russell City. And I used to ask her, I said, Mama, where is Russell City at? And she said, baby, they burnt it down. They tore it down. But my grandmother, she had a third grade education and she couldn't read. And when she used to write real big, you know. And so I would always have to go to the store and I was always used to have to be her eyes. Sometimes I had to be her education and things like that. And so when we went to Russell City and I found out how they were burned and how they moved everybody from out of Russell City into Oakland. The reason why people were in Russell City is because San Leandro, San Lorenzo, and parts of Oakland would not sell houses to African Americans. So they had to stay in Russell City. And so when they eventually burned down and moved people from Russell City, they moved my family to Oakland. And I found out during this documentary that when they sold the property and the land of Russell City, what they did is they bought the land that now houses New Santa Rita, Dublin. So I said to him, I said, hold on, wait a minute. You mean to tell me you displaced my family just to imprison my family?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to say this too. It wasn't just blacks, it was blacks and Latinos, Mexicans, and we were all together at that time. Blacks and Mexicans didn't have no problems back then. At that time, we had to stay together. I still long time friends with Mexican and Hispanic families right now to this day. And for them to separate us and do what they did, it was just unacceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. We're learning now more about the history of Russell City, and
Mhm.
County of Alameda has actually issued an apology, I believe, and
Mhm.
looking to compensate some of the residents. So it has that history was lost. So you're absolutely right. It was lost.
Absolutely. And let me tell you how much my grandmama spoke to me through this movie. So when I went just recently, they're going to offer reparations to the the former residents of Russell City. And so when I went back and to file, to try to, get my claim, they went to some reports on there, some newspaper reports of some of the residents. And lo and behold, my grandmother, it was a newspaper article from the Oakland Tribune from October 1961, Azzie Mae Gordon, and they interviewed her and talked about and she talked about it was a fire, and I like, that's why we don't have no pictures. That's what she was saying, that I don't got no pictures of your grandfather because it was a fire. So I believe that she spoke to me because I'm a grandma boy, proud. So my grandma, I'm Azzie Mae Gordon's grandson. So I believe that she speaks to me just like she prayed over me when she was here. So sometimes, maybe through this film, she winking at me like, go get him, son. If that makes sense.
It does, absolutely. The film chronicles so much about the folks who are currently unhoused, and it's is important that you bring that historical perspective and in the spirit of your grandmother in the way you portray it. Because so often in our community now, people are demonized. We're in a moment where the United States Supreme Court has said that cities can not only destroy homeless encampments, but they can actually arrest people for being homeless.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So tell us, how is the film being used from your perspective? How do you intend to use this film to help people understand what is actually happening?
Well, first of all, we gotta deal with the root causes of a crime. And any social economic philosopher or even major professor knows that subpar education and marginalization must create crime. It must create crime. So when we talk about margins, we talk about if you grab a piece of paper and you look at the margins. So the powers that be get to stay in the middle of the page, and we can only stay on the margins. And so within that margins, you got subpar educations. So you got people that's in these schools, public school system, and they might not be, they might not have the culture, they might not understand why that little kid is coming up. He might not have no food in his stomach. There might be a lot of things going on with him. So when you have an education system is not designed for that area, for that culture, for that people, you got people that don't know what to do and they don't know where to go because they on the margins. So they got to do something to get over the edge. So I take it back to educate. We got to educate. You understand what I'm saying? We got to educate our brothers and we got to educate our sisters, because if we don't, we're going to go crazy, because what's happening is mental health, and the mental health comes from the brothers ain't got no place to go. Do you know how that feels for a man not to have nowhere to go? He gonna go crazy. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get the returning citizens, the brothers, the queens like you, the sisters, to educate. Because we got to start love over again. And it takes a family to do that. You feel me? But we got to have strong men that understand this, that are educated. And once we do that and we build our men, the women will come together. And that's just how I feel with this project.
Absolutely. I was just at a program yesterday at UC Berkeley Law School about children and the adverse childhood experiences that so many incarcerated men are able to address after their incarceration. But the point is, we need to address those adverse childhood experiences before the incarceration, before somebody becomes a victim or victimizes somebody else, right? So that's a community thing. That's not a criminal justice.
Absolutely. Not to interrupt, but just to interject, I'm a Panther baby. So I grew up at the Oakland Community Learning Center right there on 62nd and East 14th, where the Panthers used to teach us karate. They taught us, I had my own plan. We was planting our own food. They taught us how to plant. They was passing out food. We went to a talent show, concerts, and things like that. So that's culture. And when you take that from what is they gonna do? Just give them a video game? Okay, yeah, that'll solve the world.
Right. We see how that's working out.
See how that's working for us. Right. So we gotta get back to building the community, and we gotta get that information out. And and it takes conversations like this to get there, to find that common ground.
Right. So what lessons did you take away from, or can we take away from your project, The Truth Be Told, The Dark Side of Gentrification?
Is that it's really that is really there. It's not gonna go away. And we can't arrest ourselves up out of here. We gotta educate ourselves up out of here. Because if we all we doing is putting a band-aid on a bullet wound by doing all the rest and things like that. We gotta build strong women. What happened to home economics? Man, we used to have home economics in school. Well, the women we can't even sew now. What's going on? So we got to take it back to the basics, and I don't want to go off course, but you know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about. And part of home economics back in the day, and part of that is a lot about self-esteem for young women. You know, there's self-esteem across the board for communities of color and marginalized communities because we don't have nothing, right? And we're made to feel like we're not anything. We don't count a voice. And so that is a self-esteem issue that, you know, unfortunately, it does have to be addressed through education. And you're right. It was for me as well, the civil rights movement and Black history and understanding who I was and where I came from and who came before me helped me have a sense of purpose and a value that I began to value myself and the things that I could accomplish. And we give that to our children.
We got to. It starts with education. And if we don't educate them, we miseducate them all the way around the board.
Education is the game changer. Absolutely.
And that's what I think about this film. It was real educational, but at the same time, what I tried to do is not let it be so, well, I'm just going to hit you over here with a whole bunch of facts. So no, we're going to dance to this. We're going to cry to this. We're going to laugh to this, but we're going to get through this. You understand what I'm saying? And so I made it hip hop-ish, you know, because most of the people that I seen do documentaries, they wasn't from, you know, our neck of the woods. So they only had a lens from that point of view. You got to get up out that camera and get up in there, you know. You understand what I'm saying? And really tell the story. And you got to have a rhythm and vibration to it. If it don't got no rhythm and vibration to it, it's just going to be plain Jane. So with this project, I wanted it to have a rhythm, and I wanted it to have an Oakland rhythm. You know, if that makes sense.
Oh, we know Oakland has a rhythm. We know it does. And from the bottom to the top, right? So whether you are on the person who's in the tent or on the corner, to hopefully the person who's the mayor of Oakland, you got the rhythm, right? We hope. And making that connection is so important.
And I want to say this. Let me just say this. It was the brothers that I met behind the walls. And when they told me all the stories of these great men, I thought they was lying to me, right? They just trying to build my kid. They trying to build my self-esteem. Brothers ain't do it. So what happened was I went past their education, their curriculum. Then I got to reading Tolstoy, Dostoevsky. I started reading Shakespeare. I was reading John Steinbeck. So then I got to reading these other scholars, and they said, man, we got it from Egypt. I just want to thank the brothers who took me when I was uneducated, when I was just I didn't know what I was, but they gave me somebody to be. And I really appreciate that. And man, and it's education, and they educated me. And I'm here with this film is to pass that education on. Each one, teach one, reach one.
Absolutely.
Man, and I spent all my money. This is all my money. I didn't get no grant. I didn't get a funding. I didn't get a dime from anybody. This came from my heart. I'm Ashley Mae Gordon's son. This came from my heart. Did nobody give me no money? This ain't about no money. Nobody gave me a dime. So if I don't make a dime on this, as long as Ashley Mae Gordon, she know I did it for her, you know, that's my profit, you know. So I'm just glad that I'm able. Like I told you before, this is a surreal moment, you know, and I'm overwhelmed and I'm ecstatic to be exact.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And I hope that the community will certainly search out and find opportunities to view both part 1 and part 2 of The Truth Be Told, The Dark Side of Gentrification. We got a lot of conversation going on in Alameda County right now about our unhoused residents and what are our solutions. So it's important for people to be educated about what's really going on. So thank you so much for that. Welcome to Legally Speaking. In 2024, the United States Supreme Court ruled that cities can ban people from sleeping and camping in public places and even arrest them for doing so. The case is called City of Grants Pass versus Johnson. It was a 6-3 decision along ideological lines, and it overturned lower court rulings in the Ninth Circuit that deemed it cruel and unusual under the Eighth Amendment to punish people for sleeping outside if they had nowhere else to go. The Supreme Court overturned the Ninth Circuit's 2018 decision in Martin versus Boise, which held that the city could not enforce an anti-camping ordinance whenever the number of unhoused people exceeds the number of available beds. Alameda County and Oakland is ground zero for homelessness and the current crisis under the Grants Pass decision. In 2024, a point-in-time count found that 5,490 people experienced homelessness in Oakland alone, a 9% increase from the 2022 count, which recorded 5,055 people. Approximately 67% of Oakland's unhoused population in 2024, or 3,679 people, were unsheltered, living outdoors or in their vehicles. Oakland only has 1,200 beds available for unhoused people. 80% of the homeless people in Oakland had housing in Alameda County before they became homeless. A leading national grassroots leader in the movement for homeless rights and housing rights is Anita Diasis Morale, a.k.a. Nita B., a mother, community activist, spoken word artist, and chef. Nita B. co-founded The Village, a grassroots nonprofit led by unhoused activists that provides food, shelter, sanitation, and dignity to unhoused residents in Oakland. Nita B. and The Village have been co-leading major struggles against criminalizing Oakland's unhoused people, the majority of whom are unhoused because of the Bay Area's unaffordable housing market. According to Nita B., every first of the month, there is an exodus of Oakland natives and pre-gentrification working class and poor residents who lose their housing and leave Oakland. Some of us, like myself, choose to stay, survive, and thrive without a stable house or shelter and fight for the town that is disappearing in front of our eyes. In late 2018, the Housing and Dignity Village sued the city of Oakland to stop it from clearing an encampment community for women and children at the corner of Eads and South Elmhurst Avenues. The initial effort failed, displacing more than a dozen women and children. After the city cleared the camp, however, the lawsuit continued based on the harm suffered by the displaced residents. The city failed to offer shelter options, destroyed some residents' personal property, did not have a policy in place to allow residents to retrieve their belongings. That case settled in August of 2022 with a payment of $250,000 to the impacted residents and federal oversight over the city of Oakland's encampment policy. Since then, the city's encampment policy requires notice and warning before an encampment is cleared, proper storage of confiscated items, a way for the owner to reclaim his or her confiscated property, and a consideration of whether to close camps during dangerous weather. And it goes without saying that OPD is not allowed to arrest someone simply for being unhoused. Fast forward to 2025, and our new city councilman from District 7, Ken Houston, has stepped forward to disrupt the progress and balance with a controversial proposal. Wait, this is the same Ken Houston that posted on his Facebook pages that over 5 years, most of the people he came across unhoused in Oakland were liars, thieves, drug users and selling, rapists, criminals, child molesters, arsonists, and engaged in prostitution? The same Ken Houston that said 90% of the people unhoused don't deserve to be helped? The same Ken Houston once accused of stealing money he raised for a curbside community? The same Ken Houston once accused of exploiting homeless people by using them to clean up trash and hazardous materials in violation of state labor and hazardous waste laws. Full disclosure, I am the DA that suggested that Mr. Houston's actions might violate the labor and hazardous materials laws of the state of California and terminated his contract with the county as unlawful. This same Ken Houston is now in charge of the homeless encampment policy for the city of Oakland. You're kidding, right? Ken Houston and council member Kevin Jenkins' chief of staff Patricia Brooks are the co-authors of a controversial proposal to overhaul how Oakland handles encampments. The proposed policy would allow the city to more aggressively clear homeless camps and RVs. The city would no longer be required to offer shelter to residents before clearing an encampment. It would empower the Oakland police to arrest homeless people, and it would provide that the city can tow cars or RVs that people live in if they're parked illegally or considered dangerous. Mayor Barbara Lee announced last month that her office is part of a working group with the new appointed DA, which is likely working on how to charge and incarcerate homeless people. In case you missed it, the new appointed DA has indicated her willingness to prosecute both homeless people, people suffering with drug addictions, and people suffering with mental illness. Ken Houston's proposal has now been challenged by state legislators, county officials, and hundreds of city residents. Ken Houston's proposal would jeopardize more than $45 million in homelessness funds that the county and Oakland are trying to receive from the state of California. The main pieces of Houston's encampment policy, according to Jonathan Russell, Alameda County's Health, Housing, and Homelessness Services Director, don't comply with state guidelines. The lack of a shelter requirement when closing a homeless camp, the lack of a clear policy for storing the residents' belongings, the lack of a strict enough policy on providing advance notice before closures. It was reported that no one from the city had actually checked with the state to see if this new proposed policy would fly for the $45 million grant application. And it will not likely pass the federal court's approval in the case already won on behalf of the original plaintiffs in the Housing and Dignity Village case. To add insult to injury, Ken Houston and Councilmember Jenkins have been cited for Brown Act violations. According to the city attorney's rule, quote, a series of one-on-one meetings or conferences that lead to a discussion, deliberation, or action by a majority of the council, 5 or more council members, is not permitted under the Brown Act. Now, Ken Houston claims he didn't know any better, and Kevin Jenkins claims that his chief of staff was somehow acting without his knowledge and consent. Patricia Brooks wrote the whole policy with Ken Houston, had a bunch of meetings with council members, and now Councilmember Jenkins said he was unaware of what she was doing. Who is he kidding? Oakland, in fact, is following Fremont, where the Fremont City Council voted in January of this year to criminalize homelessness. Fremont is a city with 111 beds and at least 800 people living on the streets. It is Alameda County's second largest city, and they made it illegal to camp anywhere on public property. They also made it illegal to aid and abet anyone who is unhoused. I call it the law against Christians who are commanded to feed the hungry and clothe the poor. Aiding and abetting was opposed by many church organizations and many nonprofits when it came before the Fremont City Council, but they ignored them, because those organizations and agencies fear that they're no longer able to provide tents, food, or clothing to unhoused residents. Fremont is also being sued by the California Homeless Union statewide organizing council. Stay tuned for the judgment in that case. At the end of the day, it is no longer acceptable for Alameda County residents to let unqualified people make policy that impacts human lives. Can the grown-ups in the room please stand up? Thanks for tuning in to Pamela Price Unfiltered. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please sign up this month As a founding member or a paid subscriber to my Substack newsletter to read the weekly word from Pamela Price Unfiltered. Your support keeps the conversation raw and unfiltered. And you can also listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts.